Okay, welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a good lunch. We're getting towards the end of our session today, as well as the end of a 3-day conference that I hope was very inspiring for all of you, and that you also made really good networking connections. So in this session, we really want to bring it home, give you some key takeaways, so how you can actually start taking climate action, back into your businesses and back into your lives. So I want to start by, reflecting from the previous sessions, that we were in, that I thought, were very excellent, to kind of help us, sort of reflect on the issues. And I'm going to start with a quote from one of a lady in our session, which I would have had her say it if she was here, but I don't see her. But she says, identifying our weaknesses and finding the collaborators to fill those gaps is our superpower. And everybody, really, it really brought it home. And I could see it as well when in the first challenge, we were given, how do we rate our superpowers? Everybody put 5 in collaboration. So I think we're all sold that that's really, a powerful tool for us to be able to change the model as we're trying to, right now in the tourism industry. Another reflection that I saw was that everybody, put a 3 in finance. So that, is typically, that resources that we need to be able to make change is one of the most difficult, to actually access. And then everything else was a bit across the board. Some of the reflections also from that session is that I saw that in the beginning, the first time around, everybody saw a lot of barriers into being able to actually make a difference and a change in each one of those, 5 key areas. But then when we were presented with the challenge, there was a lot of innovation. There was a lot of discussion, a lot of collaboration, and, really, honing it in. And that was, really, really great to see that collaboration and innovation is totally feasible. And there is, there are solutions. It's not just barriers. There are definitely implementable solutions that we're all, capable of doing in a collaborative approach. And from my, key takeaway on this whole, climate crisis that we're facing is I do believe that, taking climate action, it just makes business sense. It's not just, saving the world, but it also makes business sense. It's no longer a nice to have, but is a must have. To stay ahead of the game, to be a relevant industry player, you need to take climate action. So to stay ahead of regulations, because more and more carbon taxes are coming in, to reduce your cost and be more efficient, to meet investors' expectations. More and more you have impact investors that are asking more, not just about your bottom line, not about just profit, but also how you're affecting the environment and the society. So it's super important. And also clients, they're asking for it. Employees as well. It's for good employee retention. You need to have an effective, climate policy and, work towards solution, not just talking about it, but actually implementing those solutions. So without further ado, I want to introduce, our panel over here that are going to, they're a representative of, the 5 different groups that the superpowers that we were talking about today. And we're going to do some reflections and, also integrate you if you want to also bring, some questions and reflections as well. And I'm going to allow them first to introduce themselves, who they are and their path, and who they represent, the industry also that they represent. Kristen.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Paloma. It's so nice to be here. It's an honor to be here with my panelists and with all of you. My name is Kristen Bertuglia. I'm the Director of Environmental Sustainability at the town of Vail.
Hello, everyone. I'm Candace Strauss. I'm the VP of Partnerships and Community Engagement with Wander, which is a destination mapping platform. So we believe every amazing experience begins with a map. I am also the owner of A Woman of Wonderland, which is a tourism consultancy in Montana, back in the United States, and working with the state of Montana. But my favorite role is I'm a recovering president and CEO of 2 DMOs in Big Sky, Montana, which is at the western entrance to Yellowstone National Park, and then most recently, Sedona, Arizona.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. My name is Sofya. I'm Sustainability Coordinator at TourRadar. TourRadar is world's biggest adventure booking platform. We have over 2,500 tour operators, more than 50,000 multi-day organized tours on our website all over the world. We believe that travel is an actual superpower, and travel can give each one of us a life-enriching experience, and everyone who travels can give this experience to the destinations and the communities that they travel, and that's why we're all here. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Hugh Felton. I'm the Sustainability Manager at ABTA, the Travel Association in the UK. We represent the outbound sector, tour operators and travel agents, from large tour operators such as TUI Travel, Jet2 Holidays, down to single people selling holidays from their bedroom. So a great variance. I'd like to say thank you very much for the Travel Foundation for inviting me to come out here. Very honoured to be here. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Evita Kaloyorga, the brand director of This is Athens. As you all know these days, This is Athens is the official visitor's guide, the official guide of the city of Athens. My role is to present Athens worldwide, make Athens familiar to visitors from all over the world, and help them plan and enjoy the trip like you when in Athens.
Hello, welcome to Athens, and thank you for coming. We're very excited to have the Future of Tourism Summit here. I'm Alexia Panagiotopoulou. I'm the head of strategy of the Athens Development and Destination Management Agency, and along with Evita and our teams, we give our best to have a destination that's well managed and marketed.
Thank you. Thank you for your introductions. So I want to start the discussion with understanding from your point of view, what are the common misconceptions that people have when operationalizing climate action? A lot of times, people think that it's daunting to approach it, that there are more barriers, than actual solutions. So can you just, from your point of view, from your experience, just what do you think are those main misconceptions that people should be aware and try to avoid, when taking climate action?
Sure. Yeah, I think we just found in our last session, it was really eye-opening for all of us, because when you're faced with a challenge, inside of an hour, we were able to come up with solutions, which means that we know what we need to do, and that we have the ability to collaborate if the systems are set up to do so. So I think our solution came together as soon as we were able to collaborate, and everybody was able to move forward on concrete solutions. So I think people think that it's too big, it's too hard, and it's too expensive, and that small actions don't make a difference. So those are all misconceptions that I think if we can just throw them out and realize that they're all standing right in front of us. We just need to do that cross-pollination and using our biggest levers in each of our organizations to be able to facilitate that. And I think if we start there with the systems that can put those in place, the barriers kind of disappear. We can then move on from there. So that was a reflection, I think, from this morning.
Excellent. Yeah, it's about taking that first step, and then you'll see that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Thanks.
A misconception that I would like to speak to is that if you don't have direct authority, you cannot affect change. And I think it is exactly the opposite. As we've seen, Jeremy started this initiative, what has now become a global coalition, with a tweet. And if that doesn't show you that to have nothing and no power and authority and being sitting home, perhaps whatever he was doing in his apartment, and where we are today, that everyone has the power to affect change. And I think with that vision is the other misconception that money is so difficult. If there is vision, there is investment, and it's just articulating that vision, everyone collaborating and coming together around that shared vision, and the money will come.
Excellent point.
Just to add to that, that's misconception. I mean, we are all in it together, and a lot of people think, or they're afraid to reach out, like lack of resources, lack of the knowledge, and just to make this first small step, because those are the relevant steps that you just reach a hand, you ask for expertise, you ask for help, you have a vision, then an innovation will come. So how it was in our sessions, everyone can be the leader, with a tweet, with a vision, with a question, just to be curious and ask, can we change this system? And only one question can bring you already 10 steps forward. And just to be a leader yourself, just to make a first step, and just don't be that everyone is not afraid of those misconceptions and barriers, and just to leave them behind. There are no barriers. We are the barriers ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Think outside of the box. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, in agreement. You don't have to have a flashy report, with nice colours and things like that, which takes a lot of investment. You can't all do that. It comes down to direct actions. For example, walking the walk. It could be when you're organising meetings in your office, like we do. Where's the produce coming from? The procurement manager, the facilities manager, and people making sort of small decisions in their day-to-day role. So I think that's the sort of misconception. And the other one is when you don't have to be an expert, but to understand where your limits are, and then surround yourself with people to help you, basically.
Well, from the point of a demo, I think the first barrier is that the local and national authorities should not be afraid to listen to people and to have a bottom-up approach. So have consultations, because many times we feel like there is a fear that the strategy for development or for climate action, it's going to contradict with what people want, so we might not reach out to local communities, and we shouldn't fear that. Because this is not a barrier, because it can only get a better outcome, and it can only incorporate elements that maybe have not been thought at city level or at the regional level, and that are going to make the difference. Because in Athens we work a lot with a bottom-up approach, and there have been various consultations, especially in terms of climate change. So this should not be considered as a barrier, but as an opportunity to actually create a better and more complete strategy.
Excellent. That's a really, really valid point. Sometimes the communities actually have the solutions. If you listen to them, then it just kind of aligns and it makes sense. So that's a really valid point. So also from your point of views, from your experience, if you can share a successful example of collaboration, a radical collaboration that has made an impact, in the way you do business, in your product, in your communities, a collaboration that, has really, changed the way you do things, this approach. Yeah? Or you can start, you can start from back.
The other way around.
Yes, good.
Yes, we are very glad to share a collaboration we have in Athens, and this is Athens, and this is Athens with partners, a collaboration with public-private partnership in Athens with major stakeholders of tourism. At the moment, we collaborate with Aegean Airlines, the national air carrier of Greece, the Athens International Airport, and some major hoteliers, plus development agencies of Athens. Actually, this all was born during the crisis of 2012. The world economic crisis was happening, another total different type of crisis, but again, everybody was kind of worried and afraid how the next days, months, years would be. So we glued together, starting to think how to get out of the situation, how to work together exchange ideas, strategies, share common thinking, share budgets. And this collaboration was really successful back then. So year after year, it strengthened. We saw a lot of value in that. We felt good collaborating and supporting each other. This ended in very excellent, I could say, results back in 2015, 16, 17. We had record years of tourism and arrivals back in Athens. Now, after that, COVID came, another crisis. After that, we did manage all together to go out of that crisis. And now again, we are collaborating, and actually all these years, under this agenda and umbrella that we're discussing here today. Each partner do his part in a way. The airport is investing in green solutions and development. Their carrier the same. The city, as Alexia said and will implement afterwards, are doing some green developments to regenerate the city. So all together now we're doing our part, and we're trying to include that in everything we do. We want to include in our product of Athens more green activities, more sustainable businesses where a visitor could stay. So collaboration is king. We do that the last 10 years, and more than ever now we feel that this is a need for us.
Yes, indeed. Definitely a mindset change
Exactly.
that really created this. Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, I think from ABTA's perspective, we collaborate with, first example is that we have a collaboration with Deloitte. It's the large accountancy firm in the UK. And, through this collaboration, we've been able to reach the very senior chief executives of our largest members to sit in a room and talk about climate collaboration. And sometimes it helps, doesn't it, to have that partnership to say, oh, actually, this is a really important deal. This is taken seriously by these large companies. So it's helped sort of very super senior level engagement around actually what are we talking about here with Scope 3? So, and we're developing a guidebook. What does Scope 1, 2, and 3 mean? What does a job specification look like if you wanted to recruit a chief sustainability officer? What is it that they should be looking at? So that's been a really key part of our collaborative efforts. Also, another one to mention is sustainable aviation, a collaboration of airlines, and again, that's sort of bringing together, like the Glasgow Declaration. I want to mention that in a minute, but sustainable aviation pulling together into a single voice to actually then communicate to the government in the UK, well, look, if you want to scale up sustainable aviation fuel or hydrogen at scale to service every single flight, a massive investment, and having that representation from the airline to the government around what's required. So again, getting expertise from different areas. So. There were 2 points, and then our members will come to us and say, what is it that we can do? We've got guidance. We talk about clearly the carbon hierarchy, so make sure you're measuring your carbon emissions, then reducing it, and then, and then look at offset. But that's the third option. You speak to people and it will go straight to offset. So having a real sort of clear direction, and when you have, the Travel Foundation and the Glasgow Declaration, you point to that and say, look, this is something that so having that collaboration, look at that, please, sign that, and we can help you try and work through those sort of areas. So, that's all about collaboration, effectively, and there are some examples. Thank you.
Excellent. So a collective voice to make change. Fantastic.
Example from us from TourRadar, we signed a Glasgow Declaration, and our first approach where we signed it, here's the climate crisis, now we will have a solution and we will do it all, and then it was kind of, but expertise, knowledge, collaboration, and with so many partners, we realized we can have a solution now, tomorrow, in one day. And then after a few calls, we partnered up with the Travel Foundation because we thought we need to start leverage our unique position because we are in the middle of our ecosystem. We have tour operators, we have destinations, we have distribution partners, we have customers, and actually we can just bring all of them together. And this is where Travel Foundation comes in with us, that we want to give a room, we want to give a table to all of the voices and really start and tackle like collective approach, collective solution, collective climate action from multi-day tour sector. And this is kind of the partnership that it brings all together. It makes sense because the multi-day tour sector is big. It's so many stakeholders are involved, and that's what we will, like in October is a kickoff, and what we will work on it and I will keep you updated what's come out, but I'm pretty sure just to give a room, you know, like an expertise and knowledge to all of those voices and everyone who is involved will bring us forward. Yeah.
I would say an example coming from Sedona would be, we were actually the first city in the state to craft a sustainable tourism plan that was adopted by the city of Sedona back in 2019. And it really was a product of our community standing up and feeling this anti-tourism sentiment as we came out of the economic downturn, and really just being overwhelmed, which I know is a word we're trying to move away to de-whelmed, but overwhelmed by visitation. And so what could we do? We could sit and do nothing, or we could take action. And so doing a GSTC certification first, assessment to understand where our gaps were, mind those gaps, and then leveraging our local Arizona State University, which is actually a global institution and a top innovator in the nation as well as globally, to do that plan. And that set up those 4 fundamental pillars of the community, the visitor, and the visitor experience, but along also with economics, and then finally the environment. So our conversations have been being had for at least over 5 years. The city did adopt a climate action plan, and part of that through the Sedona in Motion, which is our public transit plan, we accelerated what was to be an execution of a brand new public transit system in less than a year coming out of COVID. So I started in February of 2021. They at the same time hired a public transit administrator from Monterey, California, and him from the city with respect to the transit system, and us from the Tourism Bureau acting as the public information officer for how you're going to access these shuttles, launched 5 trailhead shuttles to our most congested trailheads throughout the destination. And within the first month, the success of that system rivaled the carrying capacity of Los Angeles' system with respect to our scale compared to theirs, obviously. But I think that traffic was the #1 crisis in Sedona throughout COVID, because we did in March and April have that V downward spiral, but in May and June and ever since, it's been just as dramatic and an upward trend, and continues today. So.
Yeah, excellent. So that's even like also breaking barriers. You took it head on, and you found the solution, and you saw that within a month. That's an excellent example.
Yeah, it's amazing what a crisis can do to force collaboration. It's amazing, talking to everybody about their experience during COVID. Everybody sort of went through the same thing and then came out on the other side with all these collaborative efforts that resulted in projects that exist today. And, it's a shame we cannot manage to do that with climate, like it's so big. But I think a good example from the standpoint of the town of Vail. Vail is a ski resort in Colorado, and we do a fairly good job collaborating with other ski resorts in the country and around the world on a regular basis, peer-to-peer community efforts. But I think as a local government, we're able to bring together local stakeholders on a regular basis. And one of the most recent examples is probably the Mountain Ideal certification that we received recently and have been working on for many, many years. In fact, it was started and launched as a catalyst. The World Alpine Ski Championships in 2015 were held in Vail, and so that was sort of the, people set a vision and a path forward, and ultimately it became this certification as a sustainable destination. And so to do that, we decided that it wouldn't make much difference if we just drew the boundary around the town of Vail and we just collaborated with ourselves and continued to do that. So we drew the boundary about the entire Gore Creek watershed. It's a much bigger area. It's almost 70,000 acres within our region. And so to do that, though, we recognize the difficulty of collaborating with the NGOs and the educators and the federal government and the ski resort operators and all of the businesses within. But we realized that that was really, truly the only way to get there, which is why it took us many years to get to the certification that we've got today. So I think that was our most relevant example of a framework to bring together collaborators. And that required a lot of data gathering and a lot of asking and a lot of pleading and a lot of tools, software, and others, technology to be able to assemble all of that. And so, but once that framework is in place, we find that it's easier to go back to it and measure and continue to collaborate. And I think it does give our stakeholders a sense of pride in what they're doing, and we hope that continues. As we just, it's a process of continuous improvement through that framework that we've been able to use.
Well, as a collaborator, I'm also very proud of Vail as well.
Thanks, Colin.
So I want to, bring it home as well. I want to, leave a message of, okay, what are our main takeaways, from this experience, where should we start, and again, from your point of views, what's that first step that we should take? Everybody's in a different, step in their journey towards climate action, and for sure. But if, like, from your point of view, if what is that, a quick win, action that that you should take, that everyone, from the tour operator, the association, the DMOs, that you want to leave as a key takeaway. And should we start? We can start in the middle. That's true.
Maybe first one, after the workshops, what we did today in the lunch, not to wait to curveball to hit us. Like the COVID pandemic showed everyone, like climate action and climate crisis is real, and because everyone became so conscious about it, how we will go from here, and that's the moment that we can't miss now, those collaborations, like the events that are happening now, we finally can meet each other. It was here before the pandemic as well, but the action starts somehow after this crisis now, so maybe not wait till the next crisis hits us, but if we go out today that we start to action, we have a climate action plans, because every one of us is individual who can make a change. Yeah.
This is the starting point, yes, yeah. To reach the 2050 goal.
We're going to speak both. Yeah, well, in terms of communication mostly, the takeaway is that there is some product in Athens, green product, and we want to inspire local suppliers to create and develop more, let's say, walking tours or bike tours, or a product which is closer to the protection of climate change. We give them the floor to communicate it. We give them the inspiration, the floor, and actually the tools, given that This is Athens has a toolkit of communication worldwide developed already now. So we eager them to be more active on that. And on the other hand, we receive messages, because it is a live portal and live channels of communication. We receive a lot of data, what people are searching, how can we become better in terms of development of the city. So this could be a takeaway from here.
Good implementation, yes.
Well, I would say that it have to be that the cities are very much responsible as mobilizers of this whole, climate change action, from strategy to how they're going to reach out to, to even like the oldest or youngest citizen, to how they're going to provide the tools for professionals, as Evita said, for them to be part of this game-changing strategy. And also they have to be the ones that are going to bring everyone around the same table, and they're going to try and be the instigators, actually. So it's very important to see how the local community, the local authority, which might also have some funding available, is going to mobilize this whole force and it's going to provide the communication, the awareness tools to make this happen.
Unlock those resources.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yep, okay, I'd say sharing, as in sharing good practice. My goodness, don't we compete in this travel sector from one company to another? But this space is unique, that we've got great collaboration. We talk about those themes or things which really impact all of us at a personal level. So it's quite unique, I would say, in some respects. So sharing, we try and do that at ABTA. We will share those who are really taking things on. And I see some members who've spoken, ABTA members who have spoken today, who I've put in that bracket, and we put that on our website. So share, and so we would advocate that sharing, and you know, whether it's guidance on indigenous peoples or whatever it is, or climate change. So that is a takeaway, because we're all different personalities as well, of course. You know, some want to be leaders, some want to be low key and kept, and from an ABTA's perspective, we need to reach all of them and speak to them. It's not like coming down on them and imposing something. It's like, you know, let's have a conversation. And quite often the questions are, you know, there might be questions around, you know, the difference between the different scopes of reporting. And that's what we want to have, and you can do that by sharing, not ABTA saying, oh, this is the guidance, but if somebody else shares something that they've done with experts and collaborators, they will look at that. So we're a real advocate of that kind of thing as a sort of a takeaway. So sharing is caring.
Sharing, fantastic.
I think to continue on that, it's that you're not alone. Right? We've talked about how big this seems to be. So everybody take 1 minute. Have you met the people sitting beside you or behind you that you don't know? I mean, make sure that we do that before we go. I think that's personally my biggest takeaway. I sit on the U.S. Travel Association board, and as we're tracking tourism recovery in the United States, business meetings, conventions, and events are lagging still terribly, and across some of our major metropolitan areas, we just heard San Francisco, almost 50% still. It will be the last industry to recover for us, and with the new world of work, we don't know exactly how that recovery will come about, but I don't think anything can replace what we've just all experienced over the last 3 days, which was the human connection and the sharing, both professionally and personally, of experiences, cultures, language. As an American that lives for language study, it's so nice to be surrounded by so many people speaking different languages. It's just, I love it. It's amazing. And so also the conversation, U.S. Travel has just convened a sustainable tourism coalition as well, so we hope our voice will be chiming in louder from across the Atlantic in this conversation. And the Future of Tourism Coalition is definitely something to be applauded, and I'm just so grateful that everyone has convened us here today. So thank you.
That's excellent. Yeah, there's a lot of power in this room. I think that's what's so cool about it. You know, everybody really is working on the same thing and having the same challenges, and it's exponential, I think, when we all get together. So I would say a takeaway then for me would be to identify your superpower, right? Because we all have them, and as a local government, our superpower is certainly policy change and strategy and lifting up. However, they'll only do that if people speak up. And so I think people sometimes are afraid to step out and say, we know the right path, and we want you to do it, and we're behind you if you do. And then the funding and the strategies, and everybody feels like they're comfortable in implementing those things, because I think sometimes we perceive there to be more opposition than there is. I think sometimes it isn't, and really it's a very, very small vocal minority that maybe doesn't have the power of this room behind them to lift them up and say that it's not that scary and we can change together, and all of it ends up benefiting our local communities instead of being a hindrance or a barrier. So I think that's what I've taken away.
That's excellent. I mean, just like, you know, taking the time to be here and be with all of us. We're all peers over here, and we're not working in silos, you know. We are all collaborating and working together. And this is a great segue, because I want to hear from you guys as well. So I want to hear what your key takeaway, you know, is from this experience. Or anybody wants to, you know, bring another topic, you know, towards the panel, a discussion topic, something that's still, you know, burning in your mind. You know, I would love to hear from anyone on. Oh, there we go.
We've not talked about the energy crisis and whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, either for the economy or for from a carbon point of view.
Excellent point. My electricity bill keeps on going up and up. It is the real thing, you know, and it gets hotter and hotter and cooler. So, yeah, I mean, does anybody on the floor wants to take that up? Or, you know, in the panel as well? Yeah?
Really more just a comment, but we are having these conversations as well. So I was just in Ventura, California for a conference, and they have rolling blackouts right now. And we keep talking about electrifying a grid and electric cars, and that's going to be one of the things that takes us into the future. And currently a girlfriend there can't drive to work 3 days a week because she cannot charge her car. And so as we talked about, you know, earlier kind of offline, is we said, why does it have to take a crisis to make us collaborate and innovate so quickly? And why has an economic crisis and then a public health pandemic crisis done that, but the climate crisis has not? And it's because, in personal humble opinion, is that our solutions are a very long-term solution because they are so infrastructure intensive, as well as foundational, really fundamental changes in government policy, which is obviously always impacted by politics. And so, in my opinion, that is why it is so very difficult. And the energy crisis is just bringing that, shining a spotlight on that at the moment of what that challenge is. Not that it's not insurmountable, but it is a definite challenge.
Yeah. Climate change crisis and climate.
Yeah, just add to that.
crisis.
In 2011, we developed guidelines for our members on sustainability, where, you know, and the first point was the business case. Like, why bother with it? And the first point was operating costs. If you're more efficient, your overheads would be lower. But energy costs back then were a lot lower. They hadn't gone up for years and years, and actually it didn't really resonate. But it does. So it's nothing to do with sustainable business, nothing to do with the environment per se. It's about overhead costs, and now it's... Anyway, it's a business case. It was there many years ago.
I think it's a very complex topic, and we also should take into consideration the consumer, because now we speak about electromobiles and commuting, and there are many people who will probably not be able to purchase such mobiles, especially in Europe. So how do we provide them also with services, and when they visit our cities, how would they be able to commute when they don't? Especially if you speak about domestic tourism. Also, the energy crisis is impacting usually the lower incomes now, the lower income people, so also policies in that. So I think it's a very complex topic.
Indeed, is complex. But I think also, if I can add, from everything that we've been talking about, it's also about changing our the way we do things. There's not enough renewable energy sources, you know, to really fill the gap of the energy consumption that we have currently today. So it really is about revolutionizing, you know, our energy needs and the way we do things. You know, so more efficient building construction, you know, needing less, you know, transportation sources. All these, you know, changes, not just the infrastructure of having, SAF, sustainable aviation fuels, you know, outlets, but, you know, the way we do things. So that is a huge challenge. You know, I don't think that I think we're on the right path just by being here and starting this conversation. But, you know, thanks for posing that, because it is definitely the next crisis that we are. Yes, please.
I just wanted to add something, that I don't think our narrative should be that the lower income people are going to be more affected by the energy crisis than the higher, because this will not motivate everyone to work towards the same direction. And I think the outcome of the pandemic was that no matter how rich or poor you are, you know, you didn't have a vaccine and you could well die. So it's the same with energy. If we don't have energy, no matter how much money you have to pay for it, if it's not there, then you won't be able to charge your car. So I think that this is a stereotype that maybe we should leave behind in order to motivate everyone and see how realistic this is and how it concerns all of us. And, you know, this can be food for thought.
It's a global issue. It's for all of us. Yeah.
There was one lady in the previous group from Kenya. She had a really nice message. I cannot see her if she is here. No, but the message was really great. It was that we were talking about superheroes, superpowers now, and we're talking about challenges we have, etc. So the message was in the context of recognizing a weakness it's our superpower, because then we know who we should collaborate with. So it was a really kind of strong message and then we can, either is a partnership or a handheld or something that we can really do that step together. So weakness is a superpower.
Excellent point. I did mention that in the start of this session. I mentioned her quote, and I was hoping that she would be here. But it's a great, also ending, again with the same quote. Do we have time? One more question. Send it over.
Yeah, hi, Jake, Transformational Travel Council. I hear everyone, it's very inspiring to hear one story and talk about these needed changes in shifting the paradigm and shifting the mindset. And that's work that I'm really dedicated to. And we talk about collaboration and coming together. I'd love to get ideas from you guys, how can we actually shift mindsets to create the positive change that we're seeking and that we're all talking about and so passionate about. So pass it to you.
Melina here from the Behavioral Health Panel. She's fabulous. Her research is amazing.
Yeah, unfortunately. But what you mentioned before, sharing best practices, raise awareness about sustainable tourism, showing what destinations are doing, showing what tour operators are doing, putting just this out there, because it's all about the communication, it's all about storytelling, how and what we are putting out there, how we connect each other, and everything what is happening here that we bring out there as well, so that it's not just staying in this room, because as I already told before, everyone was now in kind of action mode. We thought about innovations and transformation of the system. And if we go out now, the 100 people who are in here, and spread the words, what we did here today, and what Lisa mentioned in the morning as well. So are you ready to take this action? And you just, plant the seeds, I would say, by sharing what just happened here in our workshops before, I would say.
Yeah, Jake, you certainly do that work on a very deep level in your work, but we in the tourism business here all have, I think, the opportunity, because travel changes your life, right? And so does immersing yourself in a place. So I think it's our responsibility to make sure that experience is a catalyst for that. So, I mean, we're very, very close to it. I think what changes people's hearts and minds and connection with the environment that they visit or that they live in, I think they do take that back. But it's a very introspective thing when you have to change somebody. You can put policy in place, but if there's nothing to back it up, then it's I don't know if it's sustainable. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's about culture as well, like a cultural shift, changing the culture of our industry, and it is changing. I mean, when I first, just really quickly, I remember working back in 2000 in a tour operator, and I remember asking a senior manager partner, do we recycle our paper? And I'm not being ironic or joking, but he said, I don't care about the trees, but he used a sort of swear word as well. But that was kind of acceptable, and it wasn't ironic. If you imagine somebody saying that now, you'd think they were sort of trying to be funny. But so things have changed. And I think it's on the back of a change of culture, then you start to get all the decisions making. decisions made on procurement, whatever it is. And so, yeah, we try and do that. So inductions, sustainability training for new people to the industry, that this is okay, this is the way to be. And you know, when you walk into a certain organisation or a certain set of company, you stand up a bit straighter, or you're the best version of yourself, trying to create that for the travel sector. I think in the past it's had a reputation, and I think that's improving that, yeah.
I also think changing the mindset, we need to go from the data dump, how many visitors, how much in bed tax, how many jobs, all this economic development lexicon, to really emotion, right? Because that's when we act, when we change our behavior, is when we're emotionally tied to something. During the pandemic, as we saw our family and friends and coworkers, get sick, that's why it was such a crisis, because it was so real and everywhere you went. How could you not change? And look how dramatically we changed our behavior overnight. I mean, we weren't touching things. You didn't go to the grocery store, you didn't touch anything. It was just bizarre. When I think back now, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was like only a year and a half ago. But what is that emotional connection for someone to climate action? And what makes it so difficult is it's different for each person. That ultimately, we as human creatures, our survival, our own individual survival is what is most important, and we will do anything to survive. So how do we tie emotionally climate action and climate change actions to our own individual survival? Again, I don't have the $1 million answer to that question, but just some food for thought.
Well, we believe that you set your goals and your priorities, and then you train in a good way businesses and people and visitors and citizens to follow that lead. It's the same what you said with COVID and what we're discussing with Evita, that no one would ever think that you would wear a mask to go anywhere, yet we did. So you make clear your strategy and you communicate it through the tools that you have, and you make sure to have a community engagement and stakeholder engagement as much as you can, so that there is a local or global direction to that way.
Excellent. One final question for the day. We have to sort it out. Okay. So this is not the end of our conversation. This is, I think, only the beginning of, it's only been a year since the coalition started. So I do encourage everybody to, continue the networking, use the platform to continue the dialogue, and I, hope that also you guys get a chance to see wonderful Athens, maybe this afternoon. And I wish you everyone a safe return home as well. Last final.
Just thank Paloma and our panelists for a wonderful, put your hands together for them. Okay. And of course, put your hands together for yourself, because you've all been superheroes today. And so come on, give yourself a big round of applause. Yes, you can return to your seats now.